This is Rudo Radio coming to you from the 559.
Hello and welcome to Rudo Radio, SB Nation and Cage Side Seats weekly wrestling podcast. I am Nick Bond, joined as always by Mr. Marc Normandin.
It's too much. That's too much. Now they're expecting a lot, and
Normandin.
I don't really want that kind of pressure. It's a low pressure podcast, okay?
Yeah, we're real lo-fi. How are you doing? Exciting week for you, according to Twitter and our friendship.
Kate and I are having a baby due in January, and doctor says it's gonna be a baby girl. Which I don't know. They don't even sound confident when they say that. They're like, I don't know, based on this really weird cross section photo that like you guys can't disagree with me on because you didn't go to school for it. Girl. Like, yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Hard to argue, literally.
Yeah. All right. I'm glad they labeled all the pictures they gave me because except for like the profile one, I'm like, yeah. Okay.
Well, that's beautiful news, and I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
We are still settling into the apartment, which is why I sound like I'm still in a cavern. But a smaller cavern?
Yeah, smaller cavern this week.
Yeah, I'm speaking directly into we have 2 beds in the house, and I'm speaking directly into the box spring for one of them, so hopefully it'll be less echoey.
Lo-fi podcast, by the way. Please hang shit on your wall.
I will, once I get all of the signs that I planned on buying.
Right.
We're going to start the usual way by talking about... we're going to change it slightly because I was really angry at Raw this week. So I'm going to start by talking about what I liked least from Raw and put the shit on the outside of the sandwich this time, which was... and we talked about this briefly before we started the show. I don't blame Enzo for what he said, necessarily. But I found the opening promo of Raw to be both bad and problematic. More so the problematic than the bad. Because he's not to go off on a rant here, but you can't have someone like Enzo Amore, even if he means well, which I don't think he means it maliciously, meaning the character doesn't mean it maliciously, talking about how he's going to score with the women's champion and not give her a voice in the situation. It just comes off as creepy to start, misogynist to end. I found this opening segment very, very not troublesome, but just bothersome. It made me angry to start off the show. Did you have anywhere near the same reaction?
I was just kind of hoping it would end because it was kind of gross. And on top of that, it wasn't in character for Enzo because, he made a bunch of passes at Carmella at NXT and was just flatly rejected by all of them. So his character is not some kind of swap ladies man. He's like a weird rodent. That's like the charm, but not to the degree that he was espousing in the ring. Everything else about that segment was great, which really highlighted, Kevin Owens and Jericho were just on point, and it really highlighted how weird not a place the rest of the intro was.
Yeah, it spoke to a very specific and annoying version of masculinity that the WWE likes to project, which is I'm going to talk about how much of a man I am, and all of the girls I'm going to sleep with, and then I'm going to call you gay. And it's the Rock school of masculinity, and it's weird because The Rock is more than that in terms of a masculine person in the world, but his character on WWE is this buffoonish bro.
Oh yeah, it's like The Rock is part of like not in WWE. The Rock is part of that kind of new generation of like there are other ways to be masculine besides the ones that you're used to. And it's like it's okay to have feelings and like things, you know, and they don't all have to be broy. But then he gets to WWE and he's like, dick joke, ass joke, butt sex joke. By the way, I love women. You really got to believe how much I love women because I just talked about dicks and asses for a long time.
Yes, that is a very this just felt like an extension of that in all of the most problematic ways. But as you said, and I don't know if this is going to be your favorite, so I don't want to step on it too much. The interaction once that part ended was totally fine, but I really hated that as the start of Raw. It was awful. It almost made me turn it off. If I didn't have to watch it for this podcast, I probably would have just stepped away. Like I was legitimately thinking while watching it, this is going to be my least favorite thing. That like I'm going to talk about it because I'm angry right now.
Luckily, the rest of the show was better. Doesn't mean it was great, but it was better.
Yeah. Did you have? What was your favorite? Let's try to be positive about Raw.
Now I feel like we're doing things all out of order, but yeah, okay. Man, I loved. This will sound dumb, for the favorite thing. They're just killing it with the Braun Strowman squashes. They are killing it. They're making him seem like a legitimate badass. Everybody's selling it. Like the announce team is doing great work. Byron Saxton with the little interviews is doing great work. The talent who I don't even remember their name this time, but like the interview was him just being silent because Byron asked him like why he's here, and he could not come up with a single reason for why he would subject himself to wrestling with Braun Strowman, and it was just amazing. He just stared off into the distance, saw his entire life flash before his eyes probably, and then was just like in his head, I don't know why I'm here. Oh no.
Why am I?
And man, that reverse chokeslam looks so good because it looks so terrible, you know?
Yes.
Like, that is just a big dude picking you up and throwing you and does not care how you land. So it looks great because it just looks so vicious.
And I don't know enough about the actual technique of it, but I get the feeling it's one of those things where you do all of the work and he just grabs you by the scruff of your neck and that's it. So it's one of those things where he doesn't even have to risk hurting you. You're going to be the one throwing yourself to the ground. Yeah,
like Dolph Ziggler's going to take that someday and he's just going to explode into the atoms that form him, and it's going to be amazing.
I also really enjoy it's one of the few things that, and they've done a lot of good stuff with Raw. Like you said, outside of the opening segment, which I hated, I found this Raw to be totally serviceable to good at certain points. But that is one of the few things, and I will get to this more when we talk about SmackDown, because SmackDown is doing this very well. It's kind of like a recurring sketch you like on, let's say, SNL, where they're adding more and more bits to it and coming at it from a slightly different angle every week to escalate it. And Braun Strowman as this with his ridiculous hair and face and everything. I think they've done a really exceptional job of turning him into a recurring character and a recurring segment that people want to see every week.
Yeah, and there's probably a tipping point where you've done it too much. He's not getting a real opponent, but as long as they make these squashes entertaining, like with Baron Corbin in NXT, those started to get old, but then, the crowd was chanting how long it would take him to get there, how long it would take him to win, and then eventually they were booing him. It helped with the heel turn. So, there are ways to do this and keep it going for a while before you finally unleash Strowman on, the main roster guy that he is going to wreck.
Yeah, I hope it's Heath Slater, which we'll also get to later. I loved SmackDown this week.
Hey, you gotta wait.
I know, but I am so excited.
There is an order.
I am so excited to talk about SmackDown. But I will talk about one of the segments I loved from the week. It's one of my favorite segments, period, which is, I know it sounds silly, but Seth Rollins is officially my favorite. He's officially the best and my favorite. when people, I had a friend ask who doesn't watch, like, who's the best? And immediately it was like Seth Rollins. His promo work, to me, is starting to become almost as important as his ring work, which for a guy that talented is crazy to me. Like, I am compelled to watch things after he talks about them because I want to see how far he's willing to go to prove that he's the best. And it's a lot of that you get just from him. There is no question that, in the same way Dean Ambrose does, Seth Rollins really thinks he's the best guy in the company. And it's him turned up to 11, but him turned up to 11 is like the best wrestler, physically the best, one of the best wrestlers of all time, and he's really getting a lot of other stuff to gel. And I felt like it got me hyped for a match that you're ecstatic about, but I am fundamentally not indifferent, but I'm not super. I have not become hype, nor do I know if I will stay hype, but this is getting me hyped. I also like the Finn promo, but I really loved the Seth promo. Am I crazy?
No, I thought it was one of the highlights of the show was having, dueling promos that didn't happen at the same time. And there was something a little extra and mystical about Finn's because it was in response to Seth's, even though it was tape. So now it just seems like Finn's got this weird demon room that he's just hanging out in. And he had all these graphics ready. And he knew it was going to happen. But yeah, I thought it was really good, and it was nice to see them start to mention the demon on Raw because we're gonna get the demon at SummerSlam, and man, it's gonna be crazy. That's the biggest demon that he will have done so far. Oh wow, I just yawned during my own thing. So wow, everyone turns off the podcast. I guess I understand.
I actually like my friend Kyle always talks about this, the idea of exposition as propelling action forward in something. And I liked, and to me, the Seth talking about Finn's name was that, where you explain that the demon's going to come out, but you explain it by explaining Finn. Like, you talk about Finn, and you say all of this stuff, and you don't have to say, he's going to turn into a demon. You're like, half of him is a demon, and the people who know, and the people who don't will find out. And I thought that was a really cool way to do it.
It was also a good way to run Finn down without destroying his character. Yes. Because, like, John Cena saying that those aren't even Del Rio's real cars, that sucks. That accomplished nothing except to run down that whole gimmick. But with Finn, Seth gets to say, that's not even your name. You picked it yourself. It's stupid. And then Finn's like, actually, yeah, I did pick it myself because it represents these things. And also I'm going to break your spine.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah, I thought, I agree with you. The dueling nature of it really, and I do like the idea of him just having like Adobe Premiere Pro, just being like, hold on, I got this.
You stop playing with Lego long enough to be like, oh, man, come on, I gotta open up, I gotta make a PowerPoint.
I would love that if he did that in PowerPoint. So what else stuck out for you?
I guess it's my turn for something I didn't like. Yeah. Man, I like Titus O'Neil, and I like Darren Young, but this isn't making sense to me right now. The fact that they're feuding makes sense, but so everyone got mad at Titus because he cheated and held the tights last week to beat Darren Young. So then this week Darren Young cheats, but lies to Bob Backlund about it by doing it when Backlund's back is turned. It's just, I don't know, it's strange. It's unclear who exactly you're supposed to cheer. Was he getting one back? Was it like a turn to the dark side? Why are these two very strong dudes rolling up people and using the tights when they should be mutilating each other? Titus O'Neil should be throwing Darren Young into orbit, or Darren Young should be choking him out to keep him from being thrown into orbit. And I guess we can get there at some point, but right now I'm not quite sure who we're rooting for, especially since Titus, the only awful thing he has done was use the tights, which faces do all the time in WWE. So that's not even really clear. And he was just babyface for America. So I'd like some clarification here, and hopefully they give it to us, for the go home.
Also, I think, and this is one of those things where I'm not upset about it, but it feels weird to have Titus O'Neil be this like bastion of positivity and like fundamental real life goodness on the show with like Father of the Year stuff, and then to have him being like cheating's totally okay because all that matters is winning. It felt like too abrupt of a turn, and it feels like they decided that they were going to turn him heel because they needed him to feud with Darren Young, and they weren't sure what they were going to do with him, which I think speaks to the confusion. This doesn't really make sense. There's a lot of holes in it. You do have the cool idea with Darren of turning him into a cross-faced chicken winging murder machine.
Yeah.
But
which Backlund would be totally okay with, but Backlund won't be okay with the cheater, so this is like, nothing is firing on any cylinders right now.
Yeah, I hope it comes together, because it was something I had begun to start, if not liking, appreciating for the work they were doing, and that I kind of lost that a little bit, because I'm in total agreement. That just, it didn't make any sense. I'm glad they didn't have him do it like directly in front of Bob. That made it like at least they put in that effort, but I'm very inclined to agree with you. That was not offensive, but just like not that great of a segment.
Yeah, just confusing. Like, why? You should never ask why it happened at the end of a segment. You can say that was bad or that was good, or I can see what they were going for. But then if you're just asking why, that's a little much.
Yeah. Yeah, the shrug. I should not have shrug emoji be my reaction to.
Yeah.
And yeah, not to pile on, because again, this was at worst it was a mediocre Raw, but I just found every segment with Mick Foley to be somewhere between annoying.
Wait, hold on. You already did a dislike.
I don't have another like.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, this is.
Yeah, there was nothing that rose to the level of like, it's just Mick Foley, man. He is, I don't dislike him as a human being, but I don't like him as a person, if that makes, like, I don't like his persona at this point.
You don't like the character.
Yeah.
No, I agree. He's such a weird kiss ass, and they're not leaning on it in the right ways. He's just, I'm gonna be shitty to heels for no reason, other than that face who works for a heel whose ass I kiss.
Yeah, and between the giving Roman a title shot for being a dick to just that awful, and I don't blame him entirely because P. Diddy was involved, but the P. Diddy segment, it was not a night of his best work.
Well, except for asking how big his nuts are. That was... And especially Big E on Twitter later being like, worry about your own nuts.
Yeah, and just, to me, the pinnacle of the stupidity coming out of that room, the GM room, was Sasha asking for a handicap match at SummerSlam. And him just being like, no, let's put you in a match. Like, I don't know who wrote that segment. I don't know who thought that would be a good idea.
Yeah, why was Mick pushing for the match that made more sense for her and Sasha pushing for the match that was more difficult for her?
Yeah,
like, she should have asked directly for the if I beat Dana, banned from ringside,
Yeah, or, like, he should have explained why that's a bad idea better. He was just like, oh, no, I have an idea based off of that terrible idea. And that's just not... Yeah, like, he doesn't want to make me turn off the TV. But I really liked the original Commissioner Foley. I thought it was fun. This one is just... They better start doing something, especially because... and we'll get to this. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon are just leaps and bounds better than what's happening on Raw in terms of the authority figures in the show. And I love Steph. You and I are Steph fans for life. But yeah, this tonight was not Mick's best work. hopefully he improves, or they figure out his character, because right now it's just like, I'm a face GM who acts like a heel GM to the heels.
Yeah, it's really weird. Ugh. Oh wait, I have something else I like too. That's good. So we won't end on a negative.
Yeah, be positive for a second, you goddamn hippie.
I really liked the wedding segment. Took too long, but I really liked it. Like, it was really great heel work, especially when Lana remembered what she was supposed to say.
I was going to ask if you meant by Roman, but
no, like, it was great. Like, people who just get married and are talking about their wedding, and now it can get annoying. These are 14,000 strangers, and they not only wanted to talk about their wedding to all these people instead of showing wrestling, but they were also planning on reenacting things. And then Rusev screaming at everyone to respect his wife, and Roman was doing some of the things that make him annoying, where he's very entitled, but I didn't think it was too bad. He didn't say anything horrific. He didn't go completely into like John Cena, good guy, jerk territory. And this wasn't the start of something either. This is really Roman trying to goad Rusev into that match that he wants.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just playing with you, Roman. It's okay. You don't have to tweet a grammatically incorrect thing at me. I actually did like that tweet, and once he fixed it, but yeah, I love Rusev, and I'm not looking forward to him losing to Roman at SummerSlam. Hopefully,
is he going to lose though?
I mean, we'll talk about this next week, but
yeah,
I'm leaning towards yes, because God hates me, and the glorious Rusev Revolution. But hopefully, he's champion after SummerSlam and for the next 6.5 years.
I mean, how's he going to lose it at Mania to Kurt Angle if he doesn't keep it at SummerSlam?
Oh man, I would pee everywhere like an excited.
Oh, you don't have to tell everyone that's what's gonna happen.
Like an excited dog in a new house. You're just like, oh my god, because Rusev and Angle might be my peak two favorite guy. Rusev is just doing the Lord's work, both in the ring and on the mic. It's just, he's the total package. I think you've brought me over to the thumbs slightly up side for that segment.
It took way too long.
Yeah.
Like, part of it taking too long was good, because it's the kind that where like everyone's like, oh my god, get the fuck out of the ring. Mad at the heels, which is fine. But yeah, Lana seemed to have some trouble remembering what she was going to say, and she repeated herself a lot and took a lot of awkward pauses where it was clear, like, I'm supposed to advance what we're doing, and I can't remember how. But Rusev's so good at improv, like, he helped jump in a lot of the time and scream at an entire arena full of people to make up for it.
Yep, that is pretty much his job. So I think, do you have anything else you want to add about Raw?
No, let's. I know you were dying to get to SmackDown, which is fine. SmackDown was, for the second week in a row, the superior show.
So there is a lot to love. You'll get to. You already called dibs on the best segment of the show.
Don't tell the people that.
No, because I don't want to be the idiot who didn't mention it first.
Oh, okay.
I loved everything involving Heath Slater in this episode. I'm going to wrap this into, and this doesn't totally count, but Talking Smack did a great job with expanding on this idea of Heath Slater. But Heath Slater really killed it last night. Heath Slater, I don't think he's ever going to be a world champion, but he has a lot of a very special type of charisma. I want to watch him. I find his enthusiasm, that idiot running into a wall enthusiasm, to be just infectious. And I like him in the ring. I think he is a great worker. He is one of the best hands they have in the company, as far as I'm concerned. He's a mechanic, but there ain't nothing wrong with that. I loved every bit of, even knowing where it was going. I loved the bit with him and Daniel Bryan and Shane. I almost called him Seth. Shane in the back, and him just flipping out and storming off. I just thought you knew it was coming, but I thought they all sold it really well. I love Heath Slater. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Oh, he's so great. He's so great. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. Just because, what are you going to say? Heath is amazing. I love that they're doing this like free agent thing with him. I hope he shows up at the Evolve show at SummerSlam weekend looking for work. Yeah, it would just be great if he goes to like every brand and then he's at TakeOver and like I want him to work every show during SummerSlam weekend.
Yeah, if No Way Jose wasn't busy with presumably Austin Aries, I would want him to face No Way Jose and just get his ass kicked. Nobody takes a shit kicking. Nobody like Heath Slater.
What's Bobby Roode doesn't have a match.
Oh, that's right.
So, I mean, it'd be heel versus heel, but so maybe you don't want to do that. But you could have Heath show up for a little, just a 5-minute breather after something, and get his ass kicked by someone. Authors of Pain could throw him somewhere. There's all kinds of places you could go, but it would be really funny to have him work all three.
I hope it's Authors of Pain. I hope he comes out trying to get signed by NXT, and that's what the Authors of Pain do. That would be the best possible use of Heath Slater. So I spoiled it a little bit, but you called dibs on one of my favorite segments in a long ass time.
Oh my god! Last week I said I hope that they keep up this Eva Marie thing where she's just trying to avoid Becky Lynch. So this time, she comes out, she hops off the turnbuckle, checks her leg. Her leg's fine this week. She's ready to compete. And then miraculously, while the camera's not on her, her top just comes off. Just like, whoops, it undid itself. This weird tie thing that I have that has never fallen off before. Well, I guess I gotta go to the back. And I just love the ref being like immediately taking her at her word, like, oh, she can't compete. Wardrobe malfunction. That's, I got a checklist, and on the checklist of things that you can't rest, it's, wardrobe malfunction. She might as well have lost an arm the way he was reacting to it. It was great.
Yeah,
Becky's
the only thing that would have made the rest part better is if he would have cited specific rules. That would have, like... But yeah, he was immediately, it's wardrobe malfunction.
He's just like, whoa, get a towel. This can't happen while I'm in the ring.
But you were talking about Becky, because I think Becky was the real, pardon the pun, linchpin for this. No, you know what? Not pardon the pun, because it's Becky. She was the linchpin for the segment.
It is. I mean, Becky's freaking out, of course, and just wants to kick someone's ass. So Alexa Bliss shows up. And Alexa eventually wins. It has a good match. Is, going to lose to Becky, because Alexa's great, but it's Becky. Becky's the best. The best I have on the show. But, Alexa ends up winning because Eva Marie is all of a sudden able to compete. And we learned about this by her. It's the same voiceover announcer, except all of a sudden he's apparently live and he's like, Eva Marie is now ready to compete. It's just, what? So it doesn't do the full intro before, which is the greatest. I mean, we live at a time now where Bobby Roode's music is happening at the same time Eva Marie's music is happening. This is just a wonderful, time. Wonderful time. So, and then Eva gave one of those little quick interviews after, and I thought it was one of her best ones. It sounded like her most natural, and she was able to sell the fact that she was, being sarcastic and just full of shit. So I still don't know when she's going to make her debut. I hope she wins it, and I hope it's not because of anything she did other than like some nefarious planning that allowed it to happen. But I think they're doing it right. Crowds are going to hate her, but everyone's going to love watching her.
I said this to you. It's really hard to describe what she does well, but it's the best I could come up with was an earnest fakeness. She's very good at appearing genuinely fake, as opposed to someone pretending to be fake. Mm-hmm. Because she's probably dealt with people that are fake her entire life, and and you see her in interviews, and you see her in the short segment, and she's really putting in an effort. I know that sounds weird to say, but you look at like old interviews with Sable, when she was like looking while you were watching her, especially after she had posed for Playboy, you were literally just watching her planning her next career after the WWE, where I don't feel like Eva Marie has her foot out the door, which is what a lot of people, I think a lot of the complaints about her is a fear she's going to just leave the second she becomes big. And she seems to, both on Talking Smack and on the short interview and everything, she seems to be putting in the effort to be very good at this, even without a lot of physical talent. And it's really cool to watch somebody be like that kind of heel, because it's so hard to pull off without just becoming a caricature. She seems like a genuinely to be that way, I guess. And also, the distraction finish is problematic for a couple in terms of just like being used too much. But if you're going to do a distraction finish, holy crap, is that the way to do it?
It's a completely new intro. You're like, why is she here now? Like, yeah, that's how to do it, because it's not, oh, I'm hearing the same thing I've heard a million times. It's a literal chance to go, what the shit? What's happening? And then, Alexa takes advantage.
Was just there's a couple parts in there where you just know she was fully aware of how big a spot that was. When she just started punching Becky in the face, man, that was like, good. That's what I want to see. I love you, Alexa Bliss.
Is Alexa the smallest hoss in WWE history? Because I don't know how to... I mean, I described her wrestling style as Pixie Hoss earlier on Wednesday, and because she wrestles and acts, and all her features and like reactions are that of a much larger person. She thinks she's just as dominant and unstoppable as Nia Jax. And it's amazing to see her like walk around with that swagger. And also, I mean, she grabs people taller than her by the throat, like she's gonna chokeslam them.
She does.
And like the other people are like, oh no, like like they don't slowly pull the hand off like someone bigger than them would do. Like if someone tried to chokeslam Kane,
she's an unironic crap you're gonna get mad at me, I know it, but I don't have a negative for SmackDown. I loved SmackDown.
No, you must. Or we can just skip your negative, and I have like a minor.
What is your minor thing? It might be my minor thing, and we can come together on how minorly terrible it was.
Dude, how long has Rhino been wrestling?
Different things. A long time.
Okay, it's not the ring work. How come he still can't give a promo like a believable human being? He talks about how he won the primary, which you assume at some point means he gave a speech and spoke to people, like with a live mic. Come on, Rhino. So I mean, I don't know if it's because he was with Heath, but it made that seem just a little more stilted, and it was the only negative. And again, it's small. Like, it's not like everyone in WWE is giving amazing, believable promos all the time. But it's like, Rhino, man, you've been doing this forever.
And you gave the promo that made me want to watch TNA. I swear to God. When they had, I forgot even what was it. It was the Millionaires Club, or whatever they called it in WCW/TNA. When he gives the promo about them not backing down from these assholes, basically, the main event mafia. How they're not going to back down from the main event mafia. It actually made me want to watch. So he can cut a good promo, and he's a politician now, so there's just no excuse. I thought that was awkward too. Heath was so good in that segment that I just completely blocked out how mediocre to bad Rhino was. The going from 2 kids to 4 kids, then to telling Shane and Daniel Bryan he had 7 kids.
JBL gave him 18 kids.
I can concur that out of all of the things on the show, Rhino's part of his awesome segment was definitely the worst.
Which, I mean, this is all relative. It didn't really ruin the segment for me or anything. I don't want to give that appearance, but it's like the show was so good top to bottom that just stuck out. Whereas like, Rhino, speak like a human being. I understand you're the man beast or whatever, but man, the word man is in there. So
or be more grunty. Pick
speak
one.
like one. Yeah. Although I did like when he just looks at Heath for a second. He's like, above ground or in ground pool. Because that felt natural. Just like, and also was a didn't you say so? But everything else was like, I just recently won the primary in my state, and the words are smudged in my hand here.
I don't want to say this was because my favorite segment on the show was Eva Marie's, just the semi-spectacular almost debut of Eva Marie was my favorite segment, but my second favorite and definitely my favorite match of the week was Mia Moore, Alberto Del Rio, and my boy Randy Orton.
Yeah, when I saw that was going to happen, I was just like, well, that match was made.
Everybody had the exact same reaction. I had people like IMing me, and Facebook messaged me and talking to me on Chat, like, how excited are you for this match? I loved it. It wasn't either of their best matches, but it's a match I would like to see again, because I think they have really good chemistry, and I love Alberto Del Rio when he even kind of gives a shit, and I love Orton right now as much as I've loved him since murder serial killer Randy Orton. When he came back and he was hella skinny, and he had all the new tattoos, and he looked like a serial killer. Like, that's always going to be my favorite single character ever from anyone. That is what brought me back into hardcore wrestling fandom, was that character. But this is pretty high up there. I love Joy de Vivre Randy Orton. It's glorious. And that match was great. And I love the RKO spot at the end. I thought they built to it really good, really well. I love that Alberto Del Rio is just like, F this shit. I'm just going to hit you with a chair. I'm done. This conversation is over. I love that match. Is that just me in terms of being boy for those two?
No, I think it made a lot of sense in character for both of them. Del Rio working the arm as much as he does for the cross arm breaker made sense. But it adds this extra level of intrigue, just because, Brock has the Kimura lock. Randy's got to be in one piece for SummerSlam. It just adds that extra layer of intrigue, to the match at SummerSlam. And I think that's good when you can have a quality match and also build toward an unrelated match. That's a thing that WWE doesn't do often enough.
They'll do it like once. The only person they do it with really is Brock, and they do it in different. That's the only one I've noticed where they consistently be like, "Oh, he's facing a giant athlete right before he has to face Brock."
Yeah, that's when you get those sensible matches of like using your whole roster and using them for the right thing. So, Del Rio gets to look like a good heel here, just ending a match, deciding, when he decides to by cheating and attacking the arm to do it even. But Orton looks great. The RKO still looks great, and you go, ooh, even with a little damage, he can still deliver that RKO, huh? But a little damage is not the amount of damage that Brock will inflict. So you still have these questions about what's going to happen. So I thought it was really great in terms of what it set out to do and how well it accomplished it.
That's the perfect way to put it. It did exactly what it was trying to do. That's why the Sheamus, maybe you could argue the Sheamus Cesaro match from Raw was a better quote unquote match, but I liked this one much more. Did you?
The stakes in this felt a little more significant. Sheamus and Cesaro are always good together, but I can't think of an actual important match that they've had against each other.
At all. Yeah. Well,
they're all good.
That's the thing with Sheamus, isn't it? He's a very good worker, and he's one of the best. I think he's pound for pound, to sound silly, the best Haas of his generation, or the most underrated, definitely, because that dude can go 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. He is just a monster. He's a beast of a man in the ring, and it's just his matches never really matter, or they never really feel like they matter. And I'm not sure why that is, but this one, and I think that's one of the things that Randy Orton, especially with the cachet he has at this point in his career, his matches matter because he's in them, and that's cool to see.
Totally agree. So yeah, I think I cut you off earlier. You're gonna ask if I had one more thing. I do have one more thing. It's nothing specific. It is a general. I was really worried about how Morrow and JBL were gonna work together based on the first week of SmackDown. Like I knew they'd get it together eventually. You know, Morrow's amazing, and JBL with like the proper leash on him is actually a really effective and quality announcer. But they seem to have figured it out last week, and this week I thought was even better. You know, the timing is so much better, and they're really adding to each other. And you know, JBL is chiming in at the right moments, and there is as much as you love Orton and Del Rio, there is an easy way for that to just be brought down by announcing that doesn't know when to hit the right points and doesn't know what to emphasize. It can really kind of let the match feel like it's dragging. And I was kind of worried about that, like heading into it, as much as I like those guys, Stephen. But I felt like the announce team did a really good job of helping prop up the match and keep it feel like it's going. Because that is kind of, Orton versus Del Rio is two very slow styles against each other. And there is a chance for it to drag. But, they kept the audience at home in it. And a couple of weeks ago, it didn't feel like they might be able to do that. A little too much JBL yelling. David Otunga not really knowing when he's supposed to chime in. Yeah, I feel like
that's the other thing, is he's starting to get his footing, or like get his feet wet. He's starting to feel more comfortable. He still doesn't seem like he's totally comfortable interacting with Morrow, which is weird, but he seems like he's starting to understand his role relative to JBL.
Yeah, I mean, he should barely interact with Morrow for the same reason Byron Saxton should barely interact with Michael Cole. That's your play-by-play guy. He's busy. He should be busy at all times, and he can chime in on something on occasion. But the main interplay should really be between your face announcer and your heel announcer, and then just let the play-by-play guy tell it as it is. That's your straight man, and they've been doing a really good job of coming together as a cohesive unit. So I'm excited to see how they do down the line. I'm not a huge fan of the 3-person booth in general.
I am, but like I understand a lot of people's problem with it.
I think these are the first 2 good 3-man booths they've had in as long as I can remember. I can't even go back and think of a really good one. So yeah, this is good. This is encouraging. So just a general light.
Yeah, they've definitely, like you said, they came together very, very quickly. The one thing I wish is that they had Byron and Corey with Morrow, because that would just be the best. Like, I love Byron. I love Corey Graves.
You gotta spread it out a little bit.
Do it. But listening to those two interact, and even you talking about it, I was just thinking about how much I love Byron and Corey Graves, especially when Kevin Owens shows up. But yeah, I have friends who are still unhappy with JBL, but I disagree with them respectfully. I think you have to understand he was in an offense where they made him run the ball all of the time, and now he's able to catch passes out of the backfield, which is probably easier on him, but he's not used to not just saying things over and over again, or just run. Like, he has to get used to the new offense, and I think he's doing that quicker than we expected, but it's still JBL, so he's still going to have some hiccups, I feel like, but I definitely think it's improved, and I am torn between which team I prefer, but I do agree with you. These are the best 3-man booths they've ever had, which isn't saying much, but it's still, yes.
But it could. Someday, definitely. It could say a lot.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about the Cruiserweight Classic this week. I have really enjoyed every match. In particular, though, was last week's match between Gargano and Ciampa. I'm never going to pronounce his name correctly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Ciampa.
Tomato.
Ciampa.
I thought it was an excellent best friend match. They
No, that's Chuck
seen
Taylor
that
and
match,
Drew.
so
No,
I
no, never mind.
really enjoyed how vicious Tommaso was. I love the Psycho Killer gimmick. Not just because I love the talking heads. It's a
I was gonna say, please don't say that too many times, or that will be stuck in my
really
head.
think he is going to be a superstar in the cruiserweight division in a way that I love Johnny Wrestling. He's probably my favorite cruiserweight right now, but he doesn't have that, like, I'm gonna murder you and then eat your children thing that Kayampi has. Is that her pronunciation?
Stop. Damn it. He's going to be around for a while.
Agree to disagree.
Start saying it right.
Not that he's not going to be around for a while, but I'm never going to pronounce that correctly. So I know that you went to Orlando. You don't want to talk about what happened, but
yeah, I don't want to spoil the results
I feel like
of round 2 for everyone.
How awesome was everything?
Well, I can't compare it to the first round because I haven't watched the first round yet. The fact that I knew who won every match because I saw the entire second round in person, like, it didn't mean I'm never going to watch it. It was just when I had other things to do besides watch it, I was like, yeah, I'll watch all the CWC episodes, like, in a row at some point. Probably
like
before it's all over.
I did it with Lucha Underground, so you can't really judge.
Yeah, no, I'll watch all of them, and then I'll rewatch 2, I'm sure. And then, to prepare for round 3, essentially. So I just haven't been in a rush to get there because I already know who won
again,
everything.
I don't think this is spoiling either. Who stood out to you as somebody who's watched a lot of live wrestling? Who stood out to you the most watching that? Where you were just like, they are way better than I thought they were going to be watching them live?
Man, that's a good question that I wish you would prep me on. Because now I gotta remember who I saw. This is kind of a cop-up, but like I knew Cedric Alexander was good, but the match he put on with Kota Ibushi, which is airing Wednesday, it was so great. It was the best match from the whole thing. And that's not to talk of like down about the other ones, because the other ones were great as well. There was only really like one I saw that was kind of whatever. And it was like, I'm interested to see how that came out edited, because it was like sloppy and the crowd was not into it. So I want to say Cedric Alexander, but I think maybe I'll go with a less obvious one. Jack Gallagher, who I didn't really know a lot about him. I know people were excited about him, but like watching his style and the way he wrestled in his like gentlemanly fashion, he was great. He was really impressive. And it was, he was different and better than I thought he was going to be in,
he
in
impressed
very good
me.
ways.
All of the British guys actually were very impressive to me. Zack Sabre Jr., even though I didn't understand his height or anything involved with that, or his weight last week, he was to.
What did they?
I thought he was 6'8", so no.
No, he's a little shorter than that. He's just that. He's just that skinny.
Yeah, no, I thought he did some of the best work. Kota Ibushi, obviously. The first round had, I don't want to say the matches there were no matches that were duds, but there was a palpable difference, and this is something a lot of people that had watched the Cruiserweight Classic had brought up, which is that it's very rare to see that much of a discrepancy in talent. Not that the guys that were performing were bad per se, but they were going against guys that are some of the best workers in the entire world, full stop. No size limits, no limits at all. Sorry, that was an X Division joke. They did a good job of spreading the wealth over all of the different matches, in part because they wanted really good second round matches, which you got a chance to see. But I thought that some of them were just too obvious for a non-seeded tournament, where like they really should have seeded it and allowed you to be like, okay, this Kota Ibushi's a 1 and he's facing an 8 or however the math would work out. But you have these guys and it's almost implied that they're equals, or not equals, but it's not, there's no official designation that one dude is way better than the other. So I thought that was the one thing that because the presentation in general was exquisite. I think it's the best produced show they have from top to bottom, from beginning to end. They really get it. They really have a very clear vision, almost at a Lucha Underground level, of what they want it to be, which is a fake, real sports show. They've completely nailed the aesthetic. They've completely nailed all of the different nuances of watching a fight night show. But I think they needed to do a better job of establishing definitively who was the cream of the crop. Also, it doesn't allow for, because you don't have that, actual upsets that are anything other than that aren't upsets because we say they're upsets. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I will say that having watched round 2, what this setup did allow, where it was kind of clear in round 1 who the winners were going to be for the most part, maybe not in every match, but for the most part. It is not clear in most of these matchups. And there are even some matches where, like, you might think you know who's going to win, and then, like, the match goes in a way where, hey, you're not so sure anymore, and, you know, they play out in a whole bunch of different directions. So, them setting things up the way they did, where it was kind of an obvious first round just to kind of get you acclimated to the whole idea of what they were doing, and then it's like they really hit the gas with the second round.
Yeah, no, and I understand that fundamentally. My issue only, specifically, is that they didn't give an actual official designation between the guys, and that would have made it a lot more like, oh man, I can't believe an 8 seed beat a 1 seed, or however you want to do it, or just have a guy that's pissed off that he feels like he's ranked lower. I thought they could have had more meat on that bone, because it felt like matches set up so that certain guys would win without having a reason behind it other than, well, no, that's the famous guy and he's better than the other guy, so why don't we have him? Like, if you want to explain why Tommaso and Johnny are in a match together, I feel like you can't just be like, oh, they're a tag team, so we threw them in a match together. You should say they're evenly matched, so they were seeded similarly. But I do understand the narrative reason behind it. I just thought it was a weird thing to leave out, given that they literally had a bracket.
I wonder if, because there was such a disparity in some cases, like, was there anything you would consider an upset from round 1? So I think maybe it makes it too obvious who's going to win everything. If you're already aware none of those guys are going to move ahead, so they don't really add anything. And since all your higher seeds moved, it doesn't create as much drama later on.
I can definitely see that. I had not thought of that. I think next year, because I assume they're going to do this next year, they should think about seeding it. But I do totally understand where you're coming from on that, and that does make a lot of sense to me. But overall, the presentation as a sports show has been, like I said, I think it's genuinely the best thing they've produced consistently. It's a half a step ahead of NXT in terms of presenting a wrestling show, honestly, the way that works best for me personally, and I think for a lot of professional wrestling fans as opposed to sports entertainment fans. That's a professional wrestling fans wrestling show, which is why it works so well. Because Daniel Bryan, and this goes back to what I mentioned about SmackDown with Smack Talk. He loves what he's doing right now, and it's infectious how much he genuinely loves watching these guys perform. They remind him of him when he was younger, and he doesn't seem bitter about the way his career ended. He brings it up in a way that's very informative and helps you understand what's happening better. Him and Morrow are just a match made in heaven in terms of announcing. They really, really nailed it to the wall with those two, which you don't need to watch to know that.
Oh yeah, I just assumed they'd be good, but I'll go back. I'll probably watch tonight because I would like to see Ibushi Alexander again. I really can't overstate how good that match was. So if you've been into it so far, wait until you see that.
I cannot recommend watching. And like I said, not every match is going to knock your socks off, but there's one to two. I believe it's 4 per episode. So there's 1 to 2 matches per night that are actively very good and some of the best stuff you'll see on WWE television, any of the shows. And then the other 2, usually one that's decent and one that's kind of like, this is not anybody's best work. But I definitely think as a wrestling fan, if you haven't checked it out, you should definitely check it out. It is worth just sitting there and enjoying it for basically 4 hours of just pure Street Fighter inspired wrestling, professional wrestling entertainment. It's so cool as a wrestling fan to be at this point in the history of wrestling. It's not a golden era, and it's not even like a silver era. It's just this really cool. It's the first time that wrestling's felt both like modern and that it knows. And I don't mean just WWE. I mean in general that wrestling feels like it knows what it's doing and it understands both its place in the culture right now and where it can go going forward. And I think stuff like this and Smack Talk and the Dean Ambrose, the podcast, the monthly podcast they put on the WWE Network is really starting to embrace all of the potential for WWE. And then you have stuff like I mentioned last week, Shakara's now on Apple TV. We'll talk about this at some point. Lucha Underground Season 3 trailer came out. It's a really cool time to be a wrestling fan, and from a purely wrestling standpoint, I think the Cruiserweight Classic is the poster child for that. Are you still there? Oh
yeah. Yeah, I was
letting
you finish your speech. I was enjoying it.
Yeah, it's cool. I love it. I'm glad we got to talk about the Cruiserweight Classic because it's not even that there were specific instances where it's like, oh my god, this was the best thing ever. It just felt like my platonic ideal for what, if you're going to do, I understand Raw is a variety show, and I understand that SmackDown is your WWE wrestling show. I'm really glad, or sports entertainment show. It's becoming a perfect sports entertainment show. This is just this and NXT are just great wrestling shows. And I couldn't be more excited, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about anything we should look for outside of the Ibushi and Alexander match? That any particular moment? Or match that had a moment. Don't give away the moment, but match that had a moment where you were just like, "Whoa!"
No, I really think every match had at least one thing that makes the match worth watching, except for one particular match, which I don't want to single out. You'll know it when you see it. Although there was a pretty good crowd chant during it, so you'll also know that that's the match when you hear a pretty good crowd chant. It was like Full Sail was very clearly getting bored, but they did something productive with the boredom. And the match wasn't long enough for them to really get too bored.
Yeah, so I look forward to watching tonight. I think that's. Do you have anything else you want to add before we start talking about what we're gonna watch and what we watched this week?
Oh, I'm just so glad Hideo Itami's back. So glad he's back. Who do you think he's gonna face at TakeOver? I mean, I assume they brought him back in
Dillinger.
time to get a match at TakeOver. Poor Ty.
I don't.
Yeah, has Ty been on these tapings at all?
I can't remember seeing him.
Oh man,
What happened to?
they're gonna dress someone up as Tyler Breeze and have a Tommy
Yeah.
fight him again.
Also, I cannot wait for Brooklyn to lose their shit when he hits somebody with the go to sleep. I don't know. Yeah, because I think he's hit it once, but they've been teasing that since he got in the company.
He hit it in the non-televised Mania show.
Right, yeah. I knew he had hit it somewhere. So yeah, I'm really excited for Brooklyn to just lose it. But we're gonna talk a lot more about Brooklyn next week, because
yes,
A, that is the site of my bachelor party, and B, you will be in town. So we
sure will be.
We don't have anything definitive right now, but we will let you know. We may be recording a bonus podcast. Is that correct?
Yeah, I gotta see if like the studio's open and if we can make the timing work, because I also have to do some other stuff while I'm in New York for SummerSlam prep and all that. But yeah, I'm hoping we get a bonus episode to talk about one of the things, whatever show we don't spend enough time on.
So we'll let you know as soon as we know with that. For me, I'm just going to start with the what we watch and what we're going to watch. I am going to say again, check out the CWC if you get a chance. It's like 4 hours, so block off some time. But the thing that I watched that I think other people should watch separate from the CWC, because I spent 20 minutes talking about it, is Smack Talk. Smack Talk is real cool as an idea, and they're really starting to get their bearings with it. It's and you can tell very much that Renee Young, I don't know how big a part she had in producing it or anything like that, but it's very reminiscent of what she did for the score in Canada. It's just people talking about wrestling in a way that feels, despite the constraints of kayfabe, to be very, very open and improvised, and it feels like a real discussion. Like the Eva Marie had a great oh my god, Mark, I forgot my other favorite seg that I was going to talk. I'm just going to talk about it for a minute and then we can move on.
Oh wow, breaking our own rules
with Renee Young was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in wrestling.
It was that is two beautiful people who make me hate love.
Thank you for that. That was a very good laugh. So yes, I'm just going to mention that it was. If you haven't seen SmackDown, watch it. You don't have to watch the entire thing. Just watch the segments with Miz and Maurice. They are the most hateable people I've ever seen in my entire.
It's so uncomfortable. They're making me uncomfortable with two consenting adults being in love with each other.
That's great healing. So yeah, definitely check out Smack Talk, because Maurice and Miz came out, and I love watching, and check it out next week too, but definitely check out this week, because I love watching Daniel Bryan interact with The Miz, both as a person and as a character. I think the dynamic between them works really well, because they literally couldn't be any more different. So yeah, I definitely recommend that as something to watch that I watched this week. I am going to probably after this podcast watch the Dean Ambrose Steve Austin podcast. That looked like contentious, and I like the media persona that Dean has. So I'm really interested to see that interview, because from what I understand, Steve Austin was not happy with the answers Dean was giving. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Oh, man, I don't think I watched anything outside of Raw and SmackDown like the usual in the last week. I only watched the standard 8 hours of wrestling. So I have nothing to report on in that regard. I had a busy weekend with a lot of things. In addition to the baby, we're also trying to buy a house.
My name is Mark.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Well, I'll be excited if we get the new house and I can watch more wrestling in it. But I think I'm going to watch Cruiserweight Classic. I just don't know exactly when. But I don't know. I'm sure at some point I won't have access to the TV when I want it, so then I'll be like, wait, I'll watch this all on my laptop because we live in the future.
The future is awesome. So I guess we're ready to say our goodbyes. Are you, or did you want to add anything else?
No, we can do, the end segment.
Where can they catch you? The thing where we say
the thing.
Bye and the yeah.
Yeah.
Where can they catch you on the internet, Mark?
Oh, wow. So if you want to find me on Twitter, Mark_Normandin, and that's Mark with a C, you can find a whole bunch of wrestling writing from me next week. Because I'm not only going to SummerSlam, but I'm going to preview and recap TakeOver and SummerSlam. We're also going to end up having 3 or 4 or 5 features from some of my wrestling buds at sbnation.com/wrestling. So keep an eye out for those. We're hoping to focus on a lot of the main events and tell some stories that WWE is telling, but maybe not so explicitly. There's a lot to like about SummerSlam so far, and we'll be covering that in the lead-in and also that weekend.
And all right, you're still at sbnation.com/MLB?
Yeah, I was talking about wrestling. It's fine.
Yeah, well,
plug the baseball when I want to.
You write the Say Hey newsletter, so sign up.
I mean, yes, one of my boss. Someone a pay grade above me might be listening. Yes.
You can catch me at the Nickster, THEN1CKSTER. I believe that is 27 straight weeks of getting that correct. Or 10, I can never count. And you can catch us on soundcloud.com/Rudo Radio, and you can rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Do you have a 5-star review you want them to give us, Mark?
You can do it this time. I
feel like I've been
doing them. I don't want to take the joy of it from you. And also, I don't have an idea.
You know what? Sign Heath Slater. That's to the podcast. That should be sign Heath Slater parentheses to the podcast. That's what the 5-star review should be. And did you have anything else you want to add, or is it time to say what we say when it's time to go?
Well, you say it, but you know what?
All right. Well,
it's time.
Leaves one thing left to say. Bye!